Boom! We finally got it. I think we finally got it.
It took
That's
us
the
over a year
closest
to
one
get this
yet.
one point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the closest one yet.
Anyways,
What's
so tonight
going
we're
on,
talking about
brother?
financial literacy, man. It's good. It's good. Listen, it's been. Sorry, I'm talking to myself here. It has been a crazy couple of weeks, right? The industry is like ramping up and then ramping down, and now like everybody's watching this, right? They're getting that for every, I don't know, 3 cancellations, there's one show popping up. So it's like we're seeing
Absolutely.
this back and forth, like, hey, are we going back to COVID days? Are we past it? What's going on right now? So everybody's a little bit worried, and tonight's going to be a great night because, right, we're going to be able to talk about some of that financial literacy and say, hey, you guys should have learned some of these things. You should have educated yourselves to be ready for these scenarios, right? These dips now that we definitely know are going to happen, and we're seeing them, right? And hopefully everybody came out of the pandemic really just like tuned into their finances and what's going on. But if not, we got a great person tonight to talk to with Kimberly, to really kind of just
Absolutely.
help you guys get some of that knowledge you should already have, or if not, like, hey, here's where to go get some of that stuff, right? But
Yes,
awesome, man.
sir.
How was your day? What you been up to, man?
Working nonstop, surprisingly, but honestly, just exactly what you said is exactly what we've been seeing. We've had a few cancellations, especially for like the first week of January, especially.
Yep,
But as you said, for every 3 cancellations, there's been more shows popping up on the back end, especially
100%.
for Q2. As April through June is starting to look pretty good, and normally, I guess, tradition in our industry is we tend to be a little bit slower during summers. But I feel like the pandemic has kind of shifted that because we were pretty
Yep.
busy during the summer last year. And based on the forecast of what I'm seeing, it looks like the same thing. But not too very too far off topic. But back to financial literacy and the things that we've been talking about. I remember we expounded upon this topic when we did the AB Summit this past
Yep.
summer, which was pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to what we got in store for tonight.
Yeah, yeah. So without further ado, we will introduce Kimberly. Let me get her up in here. Kimberly,
Hey guys.
Kimberly, hey, how are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
we're good. We're
Almost
good.
as amazing as you. I feel like you're about to bring some major gems and nuggets to our community, and I think we're all excited and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I mean, I love talking money and all things finance, so you can't really
Hey,
go wrong there.
absolutely. But
Yes,
thank you.
yes,
First off, thank you for being with us
of
and
course.
sharing this knowledge with us tonight. So,
Absolutely.
So,
Well, thank you for having me.
for
I'm
sure.
super
Before
pumped.
we go any further, let's spotlight you for a second. Tell us about you. Tell us, what it is you do. Kind of give us a little background before we dive into all these things. Because you don't
Perfect.
just do financials, right? You're a life
No.
coach. So there's so many more things we covered. But tonight we got you just for this one topic. But
Yes.
before we dive into that, right? Tell us about you and what it is you do.
Awesome. So I am a very unique human being. I realized years ago, I was like, why focus on one thing? Like, there's so many things I love that fill me up. And that has really allowed me to do great things in so many different areas. So I will share, since we're talking finances tonight, I have been a financial coach for almost 9 years. The universe is pretty funny, but when I was 27, and I've been in the industry as well. So that's part of my uniqueness, and what I can bring to the table tonight is I'm also an event coordinator. So I know this life that we're all living and what we've gone through in the last couple of years. And so much of what you guys were just talking about, I can tap into and know so well what we're going through. But through all of that, a few years, or almost 9 years ago, I was introduced to a man who became my mentor and started teaching me all the tips, tricks, and tools of being a financial coach. But at the time, I was broke. The universe has jokes. So I was in a lot of debt. I was broke. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was switching careers with inside the industry and about to buy a house. So I was just like, what am I doing? But I was like so many other people who are in their 20s who went to college, got their degrees, thought that they were going to go and get their dream career and be making a substantial salary, but that wasn't actually our reality. So I don't know if I'm alone on that, but I've spoken to a few people over the years, and similar stories pop up. It's like we put in the work and we went to get our degree and do all those things, but then suddenly living off credit cards, not really having a solid foundation or understanding the basics of my financial life, just living the way I had always been taught to live, off credit cards. So I had debt and thought I was doing great. But one of the things I love that I learned and that I'm hopeful to bring to other people is how to get out of debt, how to really start building a solid financial foundation, and really healing my conversation with money, my relationship with money, and then being able to take that and really create an incredible business inside of our industry with my event planning. And I did it in a unique way that filled my soul up, that allowed me to be financially stable and continue to grow. So I've been doing both, allowing it to dance together for almost 5 years. So it's one of my favorite things because they all tie into each other. So I'm really hoping I can bring some information that can support everybody here. But I love it. I love sharing any tools I can use because it was such a powerful experience for me to be able to grow into being more financially stable. We're always growing and learning, but yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of my background and what I'm up to in my career and as a financial coach.
I really love something you said it real quick, and I see Austin's got the gears are turning, man. I see it. You said something real quick, so I'll get one, and Austin's I know he's got one. You said you're an event planner, so this is like always my first question when I talk to event planners. What is the biggest mistake most people are making when they're 1099 when they're invoicing you? You see over and over again. It's like, this is such a simple thing to do. Why is this not being done correctly? And I love bringing this up. Yeah, because it's always something different. It's like, it's these little nuances, and I love bringing this up because I feel like there's a lot of industry veterans who are just like, here is and I'll give you the exact example I'm talking about here. Here is a free template to give me an invoice that's proper. Don't send me this email with just a layout of day 1, 2, 3 with no dates on it. Like, here, please use this. Right. So sorry, from your perspective though, what have you seen on your side, and what can some guys just, hey, these are some things to think about, and if you send this way, you might not get paid on time because you're an idiot.
I definitely think that's a big one. But I also, from like, the first thing that honestly came to my mind is people not like charging enough for their services. So that's a big portion of it.
There we go.
And I get it too. Yeah, I'm big on value. I'm huge on value. So it's like, oh, I'm just going to throw together some numbers. Or to go along with what you were saying, is like not having accurate times or information on their invoices. We very often as human beings can tend to give away our time for free. So that's a big one. It's like being really mindful and making sure you're calculating and keeping track of things. And it's really easy to do that in those templates where it's like, yeah, let me mark down, like, this is when I'm checking in and checking out. It's like we have to become our own bosses in a way, because you guys know the gigs, like there's not someone there checking you in, checking you out, at least not in my experience.
100%.
Yeah.
I like that though. So knowing your worth, knowing your value, right? It's big. It's a big key. I think, Austin, we say that all the time. You guys have to know what you're worth, and you got to stick by it. Don't do the show for this and then the show for that, and then that gets out. It's like, well, but you did it for this much, so why not keep going with that?
Yeah.
Right. Austin,
that is so true what you just said, because you give them the inch sometimes, and it becomes the standard, and that's when it becomes the mile, right?
Yep.
So. Actually, I want you to expound. I have 2 questions, but I want you to expound on something that you just said, where you talked about selling value. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I feel a lot of times technicians, they're caught up in the technical side of business, and as they're learning the soft skills and things of the sort, they may only understand price and not exactly understand value. And only in the absence of value, I think, is where price becomes an issue. Could you further expound on that?
Oh, yeah, I like that. So I do think, especially if you're first starting out in the industry, it can be like, I don't really know what to do unless you have someone really holding your hand and like guiding you in it. It can definitely be confusing. And when you really look at most of our relationships with money, at least I can speak for myself, it was like, we're not really taught great things about money. And most of us are taught to go get a job where someone tells you what you're worth. They sit there and they tell you, like, this is how much I'm going to pay you per hour, or this is what your salary is going to be. Whereas in this industry, a lot of times, like, you get to say, of course, there's an industry standard, but like, when you can really stand in your value and say like, no, this is actually what I'm worth, it's really powerful. And I find that people will tend to want to pay you more. Just saying. But I think it's kind of an ebb and flow. And sometimes you're going to probably undercut a job and you're going to end up doing more work than you realized. Then you get to learn from that and realize, ouch, that hurt. I don't get to do that again. Like, because otherwise we just get resentful and the job isn't fun anymore. And the reality is we work in a really awesome industry. We work in a fun industry, which is why I keep tapping into it and I can't let go of my event side because it's fun. But if you're starting to get resentful that you're not getting paid properly, it's no longer fun. So you really get to like start to balance that and ebb and flow and learn like, okay, that job ended up being a lot harder or a lot more work. Next time I get to reevaluate. Now I know what that job is going to require. This is how much I get to charge. And a lot of that will come with like breaking it down and declaring for yourself, what are you worth hourly? What is your hourly rate? What is your non-negotiable? And then go up from there. So it's kind of like, it's hard because a lot of times our jobs can be, we don't really know the hours or whatever it may look like. A job might take longer than you expected, but you really get to be clear, like, okay, overall, even if I'm getting paid a per diem or getting paid like a flat rate, I need to know what my bottom line is, what my non-negotiable hourly rate is, and then stand in that. And then the more confident you get in that, and it can be scary to ask for it up front too. It can be scary to ask the first time because I don't know if we really like to hear the word no. But one of the things I've learned to ask myself over time is like, what's the worst that can happen? If I ask for, it's like shoot for the stars, like go for it and ask and trust your intuition. So I will say that about myself. And I was sharing this with Omar earlier. Like I dance between like the like practical and logical and also a little bit into the like manifesting and spiritual side of things. But it's really true. Like trust your intuition. When you get a job and your brain says to you, this is what I'm charging, go for it. If they tell you no, you get to go into negotiation. So we get to fall in love with negotiating too. So I hope that answered your question.
No,
that
definitely.
That was great. And Allison, if I could just jump in before your second question, I want to say this real quick for our viewers who you might be listening, but you're not connecting. This is an exact mentality you should be having when it comes to moving up that ladder as a freelancer, right? What we talk about the difference between being in-house and being a freelancer. Something to think about here to what you just said, Kimberly, is that if you guys want to move up that corporate ladder, essentially, right, or that freelance ladder, you get the client that's going to pay you more and does good to you, right, that you want to be with. You should train the next person to take your spot with your other clients. This is exactly the mentality that a lot of us do in the industry right now is that, hey, I'm moving up in the industry. I'm making more money. The clients that I have now, I still have tons of respect for them. I still love them. And I would love to work for them, but they're not paying the rates that I want. Let me train my replacement so that I don't leave them in a bad place and I don't leave myself in a bad place, but I continue to move up this ladder here because my career is progressing. That is a very easy thing to do. And people sometimes don't connect that. So what Kimberly just said is take this to the next level and connect those dots right now and see that teaching the next person to replace you for those rates that they're willing to pay because that company can only afford that rate so that you can make a high rate with another company is the game of how you move up. It's how you become that next person or that next step up in that ladder, right? In freelancing, there is no next step, right? You got to create that yourself. That is the creation, and that's what a lot of us are doing. If you guys haven't thought of that, here it is, right? Plain and simple. Do it.
Absolutely. And just to dive a little deeper on what you were just saying, they say there's 3 levels of learning. You learn when something is actually being taught to you. Your second level of learning is when you're doing it for yourself. And the level of mastery is the third level of learning when you're actually teaching it to someone else. So I feel for you to reach that level of mastery, you absolutely need to train your replacement. And who's to say that in the future, if one of those older clients were to be in a jam and, hey, I need you, Omar. I know your rates are higher now, but hey, I just need you to get it taken care of. Now you're valued and you're respected at that rank and that rate and that position. And like we just talked about, it goes back to building value. So
yep, 100%. And Ed here chimes in with the perfect thing, right? When you take a job at a lower rate, you set a hard precedent to break off being willing to take less for the same or more harder work. Right? Let that sink in, everybody. Just give a second to sink in there.
Oh, I felt
Ed's
that.
speaking. Yeah, right. He's speaking some truth there. Ed's, by the way, just so no one knows, if you're new to our show here, Ed is the mastermind behind AV Tech Talks. We should do it every other Monday now. So just throwing that out there, Ed, man, thanks for always tuning in and watching with us. You are always welcome to jump on with us, by the way. Anybody who's in the chat right now, if you want to, I'm going to drop a link right now for you guys to jump in here with us. If you have questions, you want to be involved in the conversation, you're more than welcome to jump in. But again, I'm talking too much. Kimberly Austin, I know you had more.
So Kimberly, actually the second question I had was something that you talked about in your very first intro. Something that touched me, it tugged on my heart, is when you said having a relationship with money. If we're talking financial literacy, I think that the number one thing that's missing is the respect and value for money. Let's talk about that relationship, because I think that's something a lot of freelancers are missing. Let's dig deeper into that a little bit.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, thank you. This is literally my favorite conversation of all times. So I want everyone to take a second, just kind of like quiet your mind and think back to what the first thing you were taught about money was. Or what were the conversations about money in your house, around your family, in your community? What were those things you were being told? What were you learning about money? Some of the things that I learned about money was, first of all, my family, like, we had the worst luck, I was always told, and like money was always going out and it was hard to come in. I was also taught that like money was bad. People who made money and had money were not good people. They were corrupt. They were just bottom line, not great people. So if we continue to live having those conversations, living in our subconscious, are we going to be able to bring in more money? Are we really going to be able to create the space for abundance, like ultimate abundance, which can be in so many different things, but like having that money free flowing? Because the reality is money is a resource. Money is energetic. So we really want to develop that relationship with it. So some of the ways that you can shift that is start noticing those conversations. One of the things when my clients are working with me, one of the biggest things I'm there for is just to create awareness. It's like start to be the observer of those conversations and start to notice what you think when somebody with a lot of money walks by. Like notice when somebody drives by in like a really nice car. Like you see a Maserati drive down the road. What are your first thoughts about the person driving it? And it's not bad. There's no judgment here. But we really want to start to notice those conversations so we can start to shift them. Because money's not bad. Like people are who people are. But money's not bad. Money is beautiful. Money is great. I love money. So like the more I shifted into loving money and really building that relationship with it, where it's like money's a resource and it's here to support me. Money is all around us. Money is everywhere. I'm just waiting for it to find me, or I believe money is flowing into my bank account, whatever it is, like creating new scenarios where it's like, I can have a mutual respect with money. And I even go into like, I talk about like prayers and mottos quite often, but it's like, if I'm about to put out a big amount of money, start to notice like what feeling in your body you get when you go to spend money or when you go to buy something, whether it's personal or in your business. Just start to notice that energy that comes up for you. For some people, it might be fear, it might be anger, it could be anything. And so when you start to notice that, you can shift it. So I started getting into this prayer process of like, thank you for allowing me the abundance to be able to bless other people, to bless this business, and to allow it to come back to me. Because we can also, especially in this industry, because like we talked about in the beginning, it can be feast or famine. So a lot of times in our history here, it's been, especially in South Florida, our season goes from October until June. It's been kind of stretching out a little bit more over the years, but we've really shut down from like end of June until October. So that can be scary. It's like, oh my gosh, where's the money going to go? So we might start to hold on to it. Like I can't spend the money. I can't let it go because I'm going to need it at some point. But if we do that with a fear or a scarcity mindset, we're not going to allow the doors to open for more money to come in. So it's great. It's okay to spend money. Yes, you don't want to go out and be like super frivolous with it. We get to notice where the leaks are in our financial world, but you get to also be okay and feel confident spending the money to know like it's an energetic exchange. If I spend it, I know it's coming back to me. So really starting to develop that relationship, that reciprocity, if you will. We talk about reciprocity a lot with other humans. We talk about it in business networking events when you're out and about. And if you haven't heard of reciprocity, it's one of my favorite things. The more I give, the more I receive. So it's like when I'm sharing business with another person, I trust that the business is going to come back. It's just that reciprocal relationship. It's the same with money. It's like if I feel confident in putting it out into the world and blessing the economy or blessing another business, I trust that money is going to come back to me.
Awesome.
It's
Awesome. I mean, that boils back down to manifestation and everything. My dad used to have a phrase where he said that you can't receive if your cup is already filled. So you have to pour out into others. You have to pour out and spend some so that the universe or God or whomever it is can pour these blessings back into you. So
Yes.
I like what you talked about there with not having that scarcity mindset. I noticed one thing that happened with quite a few of our technicians throughout the pandemic is they may have had a little bit of couple extra dollars, but I don't know when I'm going to get my next show. I want to learn vMix. I want to purchase a machine. I want to be ready for these upcoming virtual, but I don't want to spend a little bit of money I have. I don't know which way or which route to take. So how do you pivot out of that scarcity mindset, or how do we coach ourselves out of that scarcity mindset so that we can continue building our value and improving in terms of as technicians and as individuals, as well as increasing our rates?
I love that question. Thank you. Before I go into that, I also wanted to touch on it's involved with the scarcity, and it goes back to what Omar was talking about before, but being willing to train your replacement. I think that scarcity is a mindset that can really trickle into so many different areas of our business and into people, especially, I mean, a lot of us work for ourselves or businesses or small businesses. So it can get scary when you look at competition and everything. But I think it's so important to understand there's more than enough to go around. Our business is so full and there's so much business to go around. It's okay if we get to refer business to somebody else. We're not going to be the best fit for everybody. But also with training a replacement, I love that concept. Like one of my favorite things about being an event planner, and I've run venues, I've staffed venues, but I love training the people. And I pray every time that they're going to be better than me. Like I really, really hope and pray that they will be better than me and they will go and create a successful business or whatever they want to do with it. So I think if we have that mentality, it can only continue to bless you. It can only continue to help your business grow and bring in more abundance and more opportunities and bigger paying clients and all of that. So as long as we know like there's enough to go around there, I think it allows that energetic, again, the give and the receive. That being said, going into this question, so it's interesting because it can be scary in those moments where it's like, and it's real. Like, I think that's really important to acknowledge as well. It's like, it is real because this industry it can be so hot and cold. And then when you're living gig to gig, you don't really know like where the money's going to come from, you know? And there's a dance, like there's definitely a dance there because you also get to invest in yourself and you get to invest in your business. So I think once we can shift that mindset, that perspective from spending money on a piece of equipment versus investing in my business. So if we can shift from that, because again, so many of us were taught this like employee mindset that it's like, no, you just bring in income and then you have to buy stuff, you know? Whereas in a business, debt isn't a bad thing. Spending money isn't a bad thing. It's leverage. You want to leverage your resources. And part of that is going to be by investing in equipment. You got to have that equipment to be able to get to the next level. And it can be scary, and sit there and be like, okay, I get it. It's scary, but do your best to let that energy go before you go make the purchase. Like, you want to make that purchase with a clear space where it's like, yeah, I'm confident in purchasing this equipment and I trust it's going to bring my business to the next level. And of course, we're all going to make mistakes. Part of growing in an industry, going to the next level and really like going big is you're going to fall on your face sometimes. Sometimes that investment's going to hurt, and it's part of it. And hopefully there's some things you can fall back on. But I'm also a big believer, and I know gig life, like, you can get really, really busy. And if you are out there building your own business, I am a big believer in having a solid foundation as well. So if you're really out there being a contract worker and it's not the most fluid income, or you're only having a couple gigs a month, go have a job that's going to provide for you whatever you need until that your job or your business or your whatever it is you're working towards in the industry, like, allow it to replace your paychecks. So allow it to replace that other income till you're at a point where you can really go and thrive with your passion and what you really want to do. I'm huge. I will always say it. I'm not that person that's like, just jump and see what happens. I don't like rock bottom, but rock bottom's not my favorite place to be.
Who does?
I know. I've been there. I don't need to go back. And I will do whatever I can to keep other people from there. But there is so much respect and no shame in having to have another income while like allowing it to be a bridge to where you're going. So I hope that answered.
Definitely.
Awesome.
So I'm going to jump in real quick here. One of the things I want to say is you both of you have been doing this, a lot of what you're saying here. Something I say a couple of times, and Austin is always really good at the words that he uses, but Kimberly, the way you're talking about this, it's like, the way you say things and the way you process them, right? It creates the reality that you live. So if you talk negatively about yourself, you talk negatively about what you're doing, you're essentially programming yourself to think negatively about everything, and that comes out in the way you do things.
Yeah.
And the way you think about money is that way too. A lot of people, when you first said it, my first thought was, yeah, money is the root of all evil. Yeah. And you can make these connections because you see them. But when you look at it the other way and say, you know what, money is not the root of all evil. Money is what you make of it. One, and two, money just brings out the real person inside. And unfortunately, in our industry, we get to see it a lot. We get to see how people get money, or they have money, and this is the more they get, the more they are themselves because they have the money, right? So it's not that the money made them evil; it's that they became more of themselves. Yeah. And unfortunately, we speak about this in the incorrect manners, and we think about it incorrectly. Yeah. But I get what you're saying here, and I hope everybody's getting this. There was a comment that came in a little bit, and I'll mention this too because Ed is a phenomenal guy. He says, "Buy now, cry later" all the time. And so we said, "Buy now, cry later."
Was it Chris brought up the 3 types of learning?
I love that, right? Chris brought the 3 types of learning. 3 types of learning. Tell me, I forget. Show me, I remember. Involve me, I understand.
Oh, right? I like that.
That's powerful.
We had another one here from Albert. He said, "I did bought equipment and then ended up regretting it." And I immediately felt that because there's a piece of gear sitting back here in the hiding that I bought recently, and like we used it once, and I was like, oh, total waste of money. But at the time I needed it, and I was like, I can use it again and again and again. And I used it one time, and I was like, you know what? It wasn't really the solution I needed.
Yep.
I mean, it's like that sometimes. Definitely.
Yeah. So, and then sometimes you buy stuff, and it's like it's what literally broke you into the next level. So you never know. It is sometimes a gamble.
So
owner operators, a lot of guys.
So,
Yeah.
so I was watching something from, it was an old Kobe Bryant interview. You know, Kobe, a lot of Kobe stuff has been coming back around now, and Kobe Bryant was talking about that winners, or his Mamba mentality, which is that winners mentality, and there
Mhm.
was a complete difference in playing the game to win, or thinking that I'm playing the game trying not to lose. And when I heard about that, I really, I had to take some time to really think about it. But it is a total domination difference in how you're thinking strategically. Let's bring it back to the point that we're talking about now. I I want to buy a piece of gear. I'm unsure of if it's going to be worth it. Am I going to get this money back? Am I going to make this money back? Yes, no, or maybe so. I have no idea. But I know that there's no more opportunity that lies for me within this space. So for me to be able to elevate to the next level and at least make it to that land of opportunity, I may need some type of gear with me. Now, I'll make
Mhm.
that purchase, whether it's the right purchase, yes, no, or maybe so. But by having something tangible with me, I'm able to at least make it into the land of opportunity, knowing that I'm trying to attain and reach the next level. Without it, I'm saying, well, let me keep my $500. Now you can keep your $500, but you'll never be able to elevate in your career. Agree or
Yeah.
disagree?
Agree. And
Agreed.
what came to mind? A few things came to mind when you were sharing all of that. I love this conversation. One thing is, I would love all of you to start taking inventory, because I was thinking about this before we popped on. One of the things I do as a financial coach is I call it leaky bucket syndrome. So it's like I said, money's everywhere, right? But a lot of times we're like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the month and the money's gone, but there's still bills coming in. And it's like, well, where did the money go? It's like, I know I got paid for these jobs. Where's the money? And one of the things is finding where the money went. Who goes to Starbucks on their way to every gig? Who goes out and buys like different pairs of sneakers? Let's talk about the price of sneakers. But what are the things we're just dropping money on? I won't say I can't say the word frivolously, but unconsciously. We're just out there being consumers in a consumerism world. And it's like, what are we dropping money on that really isn't creating value in our lives? But then we're turning around when it's talking about growing our business into the next level, and we're saying, I can't drop that $500. It's like, I would like you to go back and account for what you just randomly spent hundreds of dollars on in the last couple months.
Food.
So it's like the money's there. It's just, are we willing to get accountable? Are we willing to start taking inventory and accounting for where's the money going? And what am I putting my value into? Am I willing to start being a little more uncomfortable in my comforts, my fancy clothes, fancy shoes, whatever it is? And I'm just using these for examples. I love Starbucks. But it's like, can I cut back on my $7 latte for the next 2 months so that I can go and actually buy this piece of equipment or whatever it is that your business is needing? So
I like this. So I'm gonna jump in real quick here. Ed had posted a question, Kimberly. I read it. What are Kim's thoughts on how a freelancer should organize their business? DBA, LLC, S corp, or something else? What does the pandemic and how assistance was available or not play into it?
So that is a really great question. And what I'm going to defer to is hire a really great accountant. It gets really tricky, and I go to my accountant for everything. He's the one that guides me in what I need to do, because there's also moments where you might start as an LLC and then you start to bring on more employees and suddenly you're an S corp. So, and I may have those backwards, but that wouldn't be my realm of expertise. But one of the things I did want to bring into tonight, part of the logical side of things, hire a great accountant. It goes also into the investing conversation of like, who really wants to pay someone to handle this stuff, especially when you have the free products out there. But the reality is your accountant they can save you so much money. My accountant has saved me thousands of dollars, because you really get into the realm of like, what can your write-offs be? And I love this because this actually plugs in so many of our conversations. Going and buying that equipment, you really gotta think bigger than the normal consumer mindset, because that piece of equipment is now part of your business. That's a write-off. So it's like, you want to invest in having that person who is a professional, and that is their main focus. Like, what does your business need to have? What's coming in, what's going out, and what have you purchased? Like, what do you need to start writing off, and what's the best way to have my business listed? So that's going to be my deference on that. And then the pandemic definitely, there were some hiccups or challenges with that, because there was the pandemic support, there was the unemployment. And again, that's going to be a really great question for an accountant.
I like that. One thing I wanted to add is during the pandemic, not during the pandemic, but before the pandemic. This took me about 5 years to get to place, though. By the way, I had got a tax person, and I did the whole financial thing. I'm an LLC. I filed as an S corp. It took me 5 years to do what he told me to do, and fast forward to the pandemic, right before this happened, I had just gotten like into place. And I was like, okay, this year's gonna be great. I'm good to go. I had saved enough money to pay myself a salary for a year, and nothing crazy. It was $24K. It wasn't a big deal. So like I had something coming in a little bit, a little, trickle of it. And then I rebuilt that kind of reserves. But I made enough money, and it was that realization that, hey, like you said a bit earlier, right? There's these waves we go through, right? Where we kind of make a lot, we dip down a little bit. So it's like, hey, some months I made really, really good. Some months I didn't make so good. But again, leaky bucket syndrome. It's like, man, I made so much money. Where did it all go? And then it started being, you know what? I only need this much money. I've made this much. I'm going to put all this into a separate account and leave it there. And then at about 2 years of doing that, it finally got to a point where I was like, okay, I've gotten the numbers he wants, whatever. And then I'm like, okay, I'll pay myself a salary through the company, legit, like my own W-2. And it worked out great. Except pandemic hit and wiped it all out, and I had to start over. But I had the knowledge and the consistency to do it, so I was able to build that kind of back up a lot faster.
Yeah.
Thankfully, because of that. But it took me a long time to get there, and it took me a lot of learning through my accountant, through my CPA, to really get that all into place. And honestly, the hardest part of that for me was just learning, like some things you were saying here, like that financial literacy, to say, where is the money going? I made 20K this month, or I made 10K. Like, where did all that go? My bills are like 2K. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then figuring out, I've been going, I've been going to Starbucks every day and getting a sandwich and a burger, or getting me a sandwich and a coffee. And then afterward, I go out with my buddies and we go drinking and stuff. Like, that's just a waste of money. Stop doing that. And I think if people would just, like what we're seeing a lot of stuff now, kind of low key yourselves a little bit, really look at the numbers of what you got going in and out. You'll see a lot of these little expenses that add up month to month. Daily it's like a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. But you look at that 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, it's a couple $100, a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
You are hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah.
So true. And the funny thing is, as both of you mentioned, I went through my bank statements just to kind of look and see, hey, where is money going? And you won't believe, like you said, it's the drinks that you'll pick up from the gas station. It's the DoorDash instead of cooking dinner. It's trust me, food. I feel that we spend so much money on food that if a technician was to say, hey, look, I want to get frugal, I want to get serious with my finances, I need to figure out a way I could cut back, and they were just to like meal prep and start taking food to show site, they would see a huge difference in their budget. I promise you.
Oh, yes, they would.
Difference.
A huge difference. I usually like to do a little trick where it's like, hey, let's play with the numbers. Like a Starbucks and an average Starbucks drink is literally $7. So it's like between $5 and $7. So if you take that and you multiply it by, let's be generous, $5 or 5 days a week, and then you do that for 4 weeks or 52 weeks of the year, it's a substantial amount. So if you want to start creating awareness for yourself of just like understanding money, it's like we weren't taught about money. Money is one of the one things we just don't talk about in school. None of us were ever taught about it. So we get to start being creative and thinking about like, wait a second, instead of me unconsciously just going and swiping, because that's the other thing, credit cards are plastic or debit cards, it's not real. You're not having that intimate experience with the money like we used to, having to give dollar bills or whatever. But when you start to consciously think about it, and it's like, wait a second, this does add up. And it made me think about whether it's in your personal life or in your business, like you really want to know where that money is going. So when you do something like you just did, where you go through your bank account and you notice those things, and sometimes it is what it is. You're going to feed your crew. You're going to do whatever you're going to do. That money is going to go out. But now you can start to realize like, oh, I've been accounting for my time. And maybe you've gotten to the point where you're charging the appropriate amount for your time, but you haven't included all those other expenses.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, now
Yes.
I need to increase my rate because these are essentials during an event day. I don't need to, my business doesn't need to bleed this. My clients get to cover it because we wouldn't be here if it weren't for their needs. So it's like being okay charging the clients for your necessities on their event day. And I can promise you, great clients are not going to have a problem paying for your essentials, or you can negotiate. Again, fall in love with negotiation. But also for anyone 1099 or any like just contracted workers and whatnot, you want to be mindful. We were talking about the invoicing before. Here's another really great one. How many of you have expenses that you could be reimbursed, but you completely forget about them or you just let it go? It's like not like you, again, those are essentials while you're on site for these people, for these companies, you get to be reimbursed. Like, don't just let it go. Like, don't just kind of brush it under the rug. Like, no, it's part of your, like, you're allowed to have those reimbursements. It's not going against anybody. It's not hurting anybody. Like, you're worthy and it's your right to have those reimbursements.
Absolutely.
So.
Parking per diem, those are all, things you can charge back for. Hopefully they're giving you per diem ahead of time if you're traveling. But parking's a big one. A lot of people deal with that. Per diem is a big one.
Yep.
The food you're eating, obviously if you're within your budget, that works out really well. For the guys that are on the road, really just learning like how to eat and manage your intake of food, and what I could buy on the quick, like ramen noodles for the microwave real quick in my hotel room versus going out and having a steak dinner. I will say, I know it sounds messed up, but because of we get so little kind of tax back money from food stuff, if you're gonna go that route, honestly, go all out because you're not gonna get it all back. So you might as well make whatever you get back to be a nice chunk of money. So you go have a nice steak dinner once a month with some of your people, at least you get a good chunk back at that point. But if you're going out to like Chili's or Arby's or whatever, and you're trying to get some money back because I could write some of this off, like you're not gonna get much back at that.
Yeah.
You're better off getting something and just taking it to your
Might
room
as well get a
it,
good steak.
Right, get a good steak and get at least get some real money back at the end. That's me. But so Ed here brought up another question, which I feel like I might have some answers to. I've always thought an LLC was best, but I've been leaning S Corp with how so many freelancers had no assistance available because they didn't have any W-2 work and didn't qualify for unemployment, and their businesses didn't qualify for other programs. So Ed is pointing out some good things here about we kind of all learned during the pandemic, right? If you are a business owner, you don't have two people under your business, you didn't qualify for a lot of the programs. If you're an LLC and you weren't taxed as an S Corp, you didn't qualify for some programs either because you weren't considered a true business. You're considered an independent contractor. So some of those things were kind of touched on during the pandemic. We've talked about a couple of things here. Kimberly, I'd love to hear if you have any insight on that and guidance on the community about this topic.
Yeah, this is definitely outside my realm. I appreciate the information. I definitely have, again, I leaned on my accountant and he's been incredible. I know that the accounting world was they've been under a lot of pressure since the pandemic. And that was just a complete hit for everybody. But I would definitely say your accountant or CPA is going to be your best route for that. And it's different for everybody, because that's the challenge too. It's like every business is it looks different. So they're not all created equal. So it's a tricky question for me, only because they're all going to qualify differently.
Absolutely.
No, 100%. It was tricky for all of us, right? Because then it became,
Yeah.
well, so how do you really do business? Because what do you mean? I got this, you didn't get this, and it came another point. Howard brings up another one here as well. Alternative point income from W-2 work didn't count towards PPP funding. So this is another one that we all were kind of like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. I think that one was a tricky one. And it was also like, I was so pumped. Plus, I was the person that was like, guys, this is going to go away in like a month. Don't cancel my June weddings. What are you talking about? And I went from, I don't know if this happened to anyone else, went from having literally my best year ever to like nothing. And what a hit. That was scary, but I was pretty pumped. That was the one moment where I was like, all right. I mean, I've been in business for myself for a long time. And it was the first moment that I was like, ouch, this is scary. Like, we don't really know what's going to be provided for us, if anything. So it was like a huge blessing when they came through with any of like the support and everything for the gig workers. And it was tough, but it was also that moment I felt it when it was like, hey, PPP. And it's like, wait, but it's telling me I don't qualify for more than X money because I don't show whatever I show on my tax return. It's tough. It was a really challenging situation. And that being such a unique situation, it's really hard to know what's best, like the best route for us to go for that.
I remember when the pandemic first hit, that it was, I remember thinking, oh, this is it's going to be slow for some of us, but some of us will do some shows because we're always the ones, people want to do the support for the community or support for this, or like show their encouragement. And we always do some kind of show to do that. Right. And it's like, okay, great. We're going to it's going to slow down a little bit, but there'll be some work because everybody's going to be doing their part to support the community, what's going on, and being, supportive of it, whatever. And it's like, oh, by the way, no gatherings. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then, like, it's like, wait a minute, we're not in the entertainment business; we're in the gathering business now. And it's like that's gone. So what's happening? And then that's when it changed from, oh, this will pass away to this is gonna be a while.
Yep. Oh yeah, it hurt for sure.
So I know we only probably have about 10 minutes left, and like I said, you've been bringing up so many great points. So I'm always digging a little bit deeper into them so we can bring out a little bit more information for the community. But just to kind of tie things up as to where we've been speaking about with Ed's question about asking between an LLC and an S corp and things of the sort. You mentioned about us as freelancers now taking ourselves, we are business owners, and I feel like that's a marker, a cue that a lot of people miss. Looking at themselves as a business owner, looking at themselves as a business, one of the biggest things about being a business owner is you are a leader. You are expected to lead yourself first and foremost, and then of course others around you. But in terms of leadership, we always have to try to make sure that we build a solid and recruit a good team around us. People who have strengths in the areas that we have weaknesses. Like, we may not know so much about LLCs and S corps and things of the sort, but we try to hire the best CPA who will put us in the position. Can you talk to us a little bit more about getting our personal finances in order, running our structure, and treating ourselves more so as a business? Can you pour a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that concept of, here's where my business coaching comes in, but it's like, I love that concept of building a team of people who know things you don't know, or who are great at things that you may not be great at. It's like I know this has been a failed concept in society for a long time. They're like, oh, work on your weaknesses. No, maximize your strengths. Maximize your strengths, and then build a team that you maximize their strengths. Celebrate their strengths. I think Omar's actually been in an environment with me before where I was like, okay, you're not good at that. I love you. And I wasn't saying this to Omar. I was saying this to someone else. But I was like, I love you. You're not good at that. And that's not maximizing our time. Because when you're a business owner, it's so important to maximize your time, because that's where you're maximizing your dollar. So if you have someone over who's messing with someone that they're not good at, or it's not their strength, you're bleeding money. Like you're losing money in that moment. Whereas you may have someone else who can be really great at that, and this person is actually going to excel at a different area of your business. So it's definitely learning how to have things move the most efficiently. I'm huge on that. I love assembly lines. I love finding the most efficient way to do things. And I think that's a really important trait, to be able to do that, to maximize your dollar in your business. Because the bottom line is the dollar is important when you're growing a business. So there's that, but also making sure like you are paying yourself. You're paying yourself first. You're setting up a solid foundation. And then also making sure like you're taking care of the people that are working for you. I think it's really, really valuable to have great workers to, again, maximize their strength, maximize your dollar, but also like be taking care of people, because it's only going to come back tenfold. But you want to continue investing in your business. So part of that is you want to research. Don't just do things on a whim. So obviously, like, you're going to be buying equipment, you're going to be buying different things, you're going to be investing in things in your business. Research, find the best loan options, find the best avenues for your financial, I guess, your finances of your business that will either have the lowest interest rates, have the best rate of return, whatever that looks like. Or like if there's a credit card, if you need to go have a credit card for your company, make sure it has really great like return. So whether it's points, something that gives back to you, so you're maximizing that dollar again. So making sure you're doing these things where it's like, even when you're putting money out, you're still getting something in return. Like, you don't need to be going out and getting a loan that's at a 29% interest rate. Like, be savvy and do your research, because a lot of us don't really think about those things. Because again, it's stuff we weren't taught. We weren't taught about compounding interest. We weren't taught about these concepts that are actually fueling our lives. It's the difference between allowing a credit card or a bank to work for you versus working against you. So it's like, the banks don't need nicer lobbies. They don't need to make more money off your money. So figure out a way that you can have that work for you. And there's so many options out there. There's so many credit cards that give back. There's accounts you can open where they give you bonuses. So if you're just starting out, or you are a freelancer, like, go get creative. And some people I know aren't going to put the time in for it, but it's like, there are options out there. There are ways to bring in other income, or to have that money be reciprocal.
I love that, because that's that holistic full circle approach. It shows you the level of money that you're making when you're on show site, when you're spending money, still being able to retain and hold on to a little bit extra, and how can we make money on all of these different levels and make sure that we are spending wisely and maintaining control over our business. That's huge. That's huge.
And there's one other thing I do want to mention, because I do think it's important, especially for those of us who are working as business owners, freelancers, whatever it may be. We're not working for a big corporation where what we've been taught most of our lives, go work for a company and have benefits. So I've heard it forever from my family, like, wait, but if you do this line of work, you're not going to have benefits. Well, it's more obtainable than we really realize. There's definitely options, like at a business or in a big corporation, you might end up getting a 401k, you might have investment options. It's actually much more obtainable than people realize. You don't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to go open up an investment account. So, and that's something I'm not able to go into full detail here or give advice on, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them offline. But that is a realm that I play in, I should say, because it is important. Like, when I say pay yourself first, it's like, we're so used to paying out to companies, to credit cards, to our bills, whatever it is. And at the end of the day, there's nothing left for us. We do that whether it's personal or business. So it's like, there are so many businesses that are they're starving or they're depleted because we pay out to everybody else and forget to pay ourselves. So it's finding a way and building that muscle. Maybe it's $20 a week. You start to put $20 a week in your savings and maybe $20 a week in a investment account or something to build that muscle. It's the same thing as like finding where the money's leaking. You also want to start like building the muscle to start saving the money and putting it in different areas where it can work for you, because that's what investments are. It's allowing the money to work for you and grow for you while you're off doing other things.
You are 100% correct. I listened to that just earlier today where someone said, I started off just saving $5 a week. And it was about the discipline of learning how to put that money aside. And then that dollar amount became 5% of their money. And then that 5% grew into 10% until it reached 25%. And they were all able to just live off of 75 and save 25% of their income. But the long story short about the entire part of it is they had to mentally become a millionaire and display the practice and principles of a millionaire before their account propelled them and showed them. But that same person, he also was talking about saying, I would never say I'm broke because words have power. I'll say I'm a millionaire. My account just hasn't catched up yet.
I love that.
I love it. So, but it's all about what we were talking about, manifestation, and words have so much power. So,
absolutely. And
this was an awesome conversation, by the way.
I know. I'm like, I don't want to stop. I know there's like one more minute, but just one quick thing on that is one of the things, because I'd love to leave people with like practical application. And part of that is like so much of it is mindset. I don't think we give that enough credit, which is why I love like my business coaching side of things, because it's like, it's a completely different mindset. And a lot of it is that like starting to believe that you're a millionaire, starting to believe that you have the money coming in, starting to believe that you can drive the nice car you want to drive or have the house that you want to have. Or have the office building that you want to have. But it's so important to start setting those goals of, I always have people set their intentions. Again, I do things a little differently, but like setting their intentions of like, all right, this is my short-term goal. This is how much I'm going to make a month. This is how much I'm going to make in a quarter. This is how much I'll be making in a year. So start making those declarations. And I know most of us have heard like set the big goals. So but chunk it down, chunk it down as well. So you have something that's obtainable. I like to say stretchy yet obtainable. So it's like, okay, so I'm going to go make $5,000 next month. And that might be like super stretchy for someone. It's like, all right, I get to go do it. And just start breaking things down, but set those goals. And if you miss it, awesome. Keep evaluating and go for it again. But yes, I think it's really important, and it's okay. It's okay to set money goals and then go make it happen.
Yes, I agree. And I feel like the bigger that you set those goals, even when you miss them, I feel you surprise yourself so much. And you said, hey, I didn't hit that goal, but I accomplished more than what I really thought that I could have. And I've had my best month ever. So
yep. Absolutely.
Love it.
Oh, it's so exciting.
So I've got to jump in here real quick, guys. Sorry, Kimberly, you kind of beat me to the punch. I was going to say, do you have any last words to say before we let you go for tonight? But you did great.
Thank you.
I'm just speechless. This has been a great conversation for all of us here. I think everybody's enjoyed it. We've had tons of good feedback in the audience. We're having a blast here. We should definitely bring you on for another one of these because this was definitely a fun conversation.
I'm here for it.
I love it. I love it. But Kimberly, again, thank you for being here so much with us tonight. It was really great having you. I love the mindset, the mentality, the way you think about things, the words you use to make that happen. Like, it's just, I hope everybody's absorbing what they're learning tonight. And the replays, if you guys are watching this on the post side, man, I hope you guys got a lot of questions. And if not, put them in the comments here. We'll get back to Kimberly and get to you guys. And yeah, again, I'm talking too much. But so again, sorry, Kimberly. Thank you for being here with us so much. Austin, go ahead and close
so much,
out, please, sir.
Thank you once more for being with us, Kimberly. And as I always say, there was more nuggets and more gems that was shared with us tonight. But one thing I really loved that she talked about was the next level of our mindset, the mindset shift and the difference in position that we need to have. She also mentioned that money is a resource and that it's everywhere. So what we should pay attention to, that money is currency, and the root word of currency is current, and current flows, whether that's electricity, whether that's water, it's about the flow. What are you doing to continuously pour out what is continuously coming back to you? We talked about reciprocity. This is a great episode to go back, dive back in, rewatch this episode. There's questions on here that hasn't been answered, so I'm pretty sure that we're gonna have a second episode to this. But guys, I look forward to seeing you again next week, actually in the following week, because now we're doing every other Wednesday. But I look forward to it, and I hope you guys had a great time tonight. Thank you again, and take care.